one of my favorite football analysts, and I don't think I'm alone in that. It's Kevin Clark, who you maybe knew once upon a time from The Ringer. That's where I got acquainted with him. Now at ESPN, he does This Is Football. Very informed, very entertaining, very connected. And Kevin, something that really made me laugh, and I appreciated this in one of your recent podcasts. I think it was with Sheil Kapadia. You got to the end, right? You're ranking the best units or the offenses or the defenses of football. I can't remember. And at the very end of the podcast, two of the most educated football guys there are, you basically in the last 60 seconds, Kevin said, well, I don't know. I thought it was the Rams, but maybe it's probably the Eagles or maybe the Niners. Who knows? All right, that's the podcast and we're done. And I found that very relatable. Like the NFL kind of makes fools of us all, no matter how closely we try to follow it.
Well, it's funny. Someone asked me for my picks maybe 3 weeks ago, and this is when Stafford tried to. This is when Stafford was starting to do the rehab stuff and was in a Airstream cryogenic back surgery thing, whatever it was. And I said, I'm picking the Rams to make the Super Bowl, but maybe I'm picking the Eagles. And it's a responsible thing to do, is to say, hey, this all depends on the quarterback's back. I'm over 30 years old and I golf. I know back problems don't ever go away.
Yep.
They just can be managed. And so with Matthew Stafford, a guy who's taken a lot of hits, he's had back issues in the past, he's missed games before. He played in Detroit there and got the crap knocked out of him for a long time. I just think it's really hard. And I think that to accentuate the local angle here, I think the Packers window is wide open. I don't know if, I go back and forth. Should they try to hit, on a big pass rusher, try to make a trade for Trey Hendrickson, something like that to kind of prop open a Super Bowl window? I don't know. I don't know if they have enough right now, but I do know the NFC seems open to me. The Eagles are very, very, very good. I think playing ceiling-wise, I think Jordan Love can play better than Jalen Hurts, so there's an advantage there if he's 100% healthy, all that stuff. I don't think Love was healthy last year after week 1 in Brazil where he picked up that injury. And so I think the NFC is as hard to peg as a conference as I've seen in a long time.
I think Packers fans are down. Not thinking the team is going to stink, but wondering, how high can their ceiling actually be, especially relative to teams like the Eagles or the Rams, who I love if Matthew Stafford is healthy, of course. And I heard you and Sheil talking about the Texans, and I think maybe the Texans and the Packers have kind of been tied for the last 2 years. I think maybe we expected too much too early with C.J. Stroud, Jordan Love, and their teams in year 2. But now in year 3, I almost feel like the Texans and the Packers could be slightly underrated, especially here locally. Yeah. But you're telling me that you really believe in the Packers. So talk more about that.
I really do. I mean, I think that I talked to Jordan Love a couple of weeks ago when I was in Green Bay for the camp tour, and I said, what's the biggest difference between this year and last year for you? And he said, he can use his legs more. I don't think he could do that last year. I think we saw that. And I think that the last resort for any play, if you have athleticism, to scramble for 12 yards.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, and you've done it for the entirety of your football career, and you were wired like that, that is a huge, huge thing we don't give enough credence to, okay? So I really do think that mattered last year. So I'm of the opinion that if he's fully healthy, that Jordan Love's going to be a top 10 quarterback. I think Matthew Golden, who everybody there talked up, is going to be awesome. And then he's actually going to catch the ball. As we know, there were three wide receivers in the top 5 in drop percentage last year that played for Green Bay. That's really, really, really bad. And so I think you add in Golden at the top of that room, you figure out who you can rely on. Someone's going to be the odd man out at some point. Obviously, injuries will dictate some of that. But I think there's enough depth. I think there's enough good drafting. I want to see maybe one guy who can reliably just be a demon in the front 7 in the pass rush. That to me is what's holding it back. Because for the Rams, I said this on the show you're referencing, but I was stunned to find out that the Rams had the highest rookie duo in pressures on record. It was Braden Fisk and Jared Verse. And they broke the record of the Rams rookie duo the previous year.
Yeah.
And so it's like that's how you win the Super Bowl. But again, if Matthew Stafford's hurt, there's no two ways about it. You can't win the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. So the Rams have that kind of advantage, right? It seemed like the Seahawks have a really good defense. She'll say they might be the best defense in football. And so I think the Packers are at a disadvantage as far as defenses go, but I think their offense can raise their ceiling, and they don't need much from their defense, just athleticism and getting after the quarterback.
So you sat down with Matt LaFleur your time in Green Bay, and you can see that show, This Is Football, on ESPN2, or catch it in podcast or streaming for, wherever you find and consume your sports content. There's skepticism, again, with Packers fans about LaFleur. Not that he's bad, but it's like, can he be great? Can you win a Super Bowl with this guy? And I was thinking last night about, hiring a young hotshot OC. It used to be such a cheat code, and now it feels like those guys, can comprise half the league. So how do you evaluate and judge Matt LaFleur relative to maybe Shanahan, McVay, KOC, McDaniel? What sets him apart? You sat down and talked to them.
Yeah, I think Matt LaFleur is an awesome coach, and I think it goes back to what he was able to do with Aaron Rodgers, where he was able to take the Rodgers playbook and blend it with the LaFleur, Shanahan, McVay playbook, and win 2 MVPs. And I think that so much was discounted when he was winning 13 games a year, whatever it was, with Aaron Rodgers.
Sure.
And I think it was very hand-wavy, and everybody said, well, it's Aaron Rodgers. Well, if it was easy, Mike McCarthy would have done it. If it was easy to be the winningest coach of all time through 4 years or whatever it was, then Mike McCarthy would have done it, and a bunch of other coaches who do less with more with elite quarterbacks would have done it. But Matt LaFleur did it. And so for me, I just think the offense, he knows offense, he knows play calling, he knows sequencing. And I think he's got an edge to him that I don't think a lot of people see. So I love him. I think he's extremely capable of being a Super Bowl winning coach. And I picked them to make the Super Bowl last year on the strength of that. And again, that kind of got off track week 1 in Brazil, but I still think they're a really good bet this year, and they're 100% of my tier 1 of NFC contenders.
So during your visit to Green Bay, what was one thing you noticed where you thought they're the only team doing this, or they're the team doing this better or differently than anybody else?
I would say a couple of things. Okay. Number one is they don't make, football is the main thing there.
Yeah.
Which you go to some other places, like Dallas and Oxnard is a good example. And you got all these celebrities, and you got and they're shooting t-shirts. And what's cool about Green Bay is not only are they just focused on getting better, but the fans are focused on them getting better. They're watching the process. And it's a very informed fan base that just loves ball. And I think that in a lot of places, you see a lot of people just walking around and not really paying attention to anything. Like we got there, we were staying at whatever the hotel is right behind the breakfast facility, Spring Hill Suites or whatever. And we had come kind of early. And so we drove, and there were people sitting in the bleachers, like 90 minutes early, just waiting to see practice, right? And so that's what I love about the whole process is I think that they're very realistic, not only the fans, and you mentioned the fans' expectations, but I think that on the practice field, they know the task that's in front of them, which I don't think you can say about all 31 other teams. I would say that Jordan Love, as far as how he's different or any of that stuff, I would say that he is so honest with what he needs to do to get better. He answered all my questions, and I don't think he shied away from it. And there's other quarterbacks who said, if you say, hey, what went wrong last year? They wouldn't have said, well, I couldn't run. They would have said, oh, it's a team game. It's a process, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And instead, there's an honesty there. And to be honest with you, I liken it a little bit to Joe Burrow. When you talk to Joe Burrow, he will tell you exactly what's wrong with his game. He will tell you, hey, I need to do this, 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 this. And like that, I think there's an honesty to it. And a couple of years ago, I was in the year that the Bengals made the Super Bowl. If you remember, there was all this panic coming out of Bengals camp. And the reason that I was optimistic is because it was the Bengals themselves saying, hey, we need to get better at this, better at this. What you don't want is the team doing sunshine and rainbows. I don't think the Packers were doing that. I don't think it was funny. Jordan Love in my interview called Matthew Golden a stud. And then I asked Matt LaFleur to call him a stud, and he wouldn't. And he kept saying, no, he's going to be a big part of the offense. And he's going to be big, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, stud-ish. And he's like, no. And so it was just very funny to see that they're all embracing the process and not skipping steps there.
Well, Kevin, I appreciate your time. Everyone should go watch your interviews with Love and Gutekunst talking about his time scouting in a Crown Vic when he probably had no money is very relatable.
Listen to Def Leppard, right?
Yep. But he shot down. I don't remember what band you brought up. And he's like, oh, no.
Bon Jovi.
He's like, no, not Bon Jovi, which I thought was funny. Thank you, Kevin. I love the show.
He said 80s hard rock. And I didn't know what that meant because I was born in the late 80s.
Thank you, Kevin. I got to go. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Kevin Clark, This Is Football. Excellent stuff. Hour number 2, Bill Show, coming up next.